Hey, welcome back to Songs and Stories from an Animated Mind. I'm Steve Belfer. Here's my dog. You know, I composed a number of original instrumental cues for SpongeBob, and today I want to tell you about how this one came together. Today I want to tell you the story of the song Seaweed. Way back when SpongeBob was still in development, this is before the pilot even existed, my friend Steve Hillenberg asked me to write and record some music for the show that he was working on. I didn't work for Steve. I was his friend. I wasn't on staff or anything like that. I had seen some rough drawings of SpongeBob and Patrick and Squidward. Hey, did you know that Squidward is actually an octopus? And in real life, octopi eat sea sponges. There's a fun fact for you. So I listened to a bunch of old Hawaiian music to get into the right feeling. And one of the guys I would listen to was called Saul Hoopy. There's a lot of motion and emotion in the music. It's like the ocean waves and the wind, and it's so catchy. I would listen to this tape, front and back, over and over again in my car. I had an acoustic nylon string guitar, like a classical guitar, and I had an electric guitar. And I also had this cheap ukulele, but it would just drift slightly out of tune. So here's what I did. You know, there's no show to watch because it didn't exist yet. So I would just close my eyes and I would picture the characters running around and peeking out from behind Seaweed, like looking behind it like it's a curtain and dropping things and go, oops, and then picking it up and being happy and being friends, and that kind of thing. You gotta remember, there was not an actual show yet at the time. So I didn't watch SpongeBob and know what it should be like because it was not a show. And so I didn't formulate ideas by watching any animated sequences. I just closed my eyes and I just played that music that I pictured in my head that I thought would be funny. I thought it would be the personality of the characters. On a parallel level, I knew that this show took place underwater. And so, much like being on a boat on top of the water that goes up and down, well, I pictured there's waves underwater too. Remember those old black and white movies? They had this sort of warpy visual effect called a ripple glass. And I tried to emulate this musically. I kind of incorporated a warpy vibrato in my playing on my left hand, and I would sort of shake the chords a little bit, a little up and down, to give them a constant shimmer. I was visualizing and adding that unsteady feeling to the music. Okay, so I kept the chords and the rhythm intentionally simple. It's a steady rhythm. It's not too fast. It's not too slow. I didn't use any kind of click track. I just played it my own pace. So it kind of speeds up and slows down on that level while the vibrato is kind of warping it. My plan was to record the rhythm track first. I thought this would be kind of a platform that I could play over. I knew the melody would come to me, and I was really letting myself become open to welcoming that melody when it came. I thought, I'll know it when I hear it. I was using this 4-track cassette recorder that Steve had gotten for me. I talk about this in another episode called The Day SpongeBob Spoke, so feel free to check that one out. I laid down this strumming track along with the chords on the nylon string guitar. So I was picturing these characters, and it was this vibe I was creating. And by no means a demonstration of musical virtuosity, okay? I think Steve liked that primitive kind of quality in my early music. To do the slide lead, I had this Telecaster style guitar. It wasn't a slide guitar, but I got this thing when I was 16, and it was my only electric guitar. It's super heavy. The body's made out of this African zebra wood. It weighed a ton. But I played this song with the guitar on my lap, and then I used a slide, a glass slide. I tuned it to a special tuning, and I think it was open E tuning, and I put it flat on my lap. I was sitting in a chair, headphones on, head down, my eyes were closed, and I was just thinking about this kind of call and response kind of melody. Imagine a couple of birds or clams on different trees. And one calls out and says, "Hey, how are you doing?" And then the other one answers back and it goes, "Hey, I'm a bird too. I'm doing fine. How are you?" And then it's kind of like this musical conversation keeps unfolding. I would kind of sound it out and shake each little note to try and give it charm and personality, and also to kind of cover up a little imperfections in my playing. And I played the melody for a bit. Then I'd play the same thing kind of as a question. You know when you ask a question and you go up? Like, "I did what?" And it goes up. Well, when I was playing, I would go, "Do, do, 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 do." And then I would answer and I'd go, "Dee, dee, 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 dee." And that doesn't really make sense, but it's kind of emulating a vocal speaking conversation. This might sound a little abstract, but as a musician, I'm more like an animator. I'm more interested in telling a story or giving a feeling rather than mastering a difficult composition. Think about this for a little bit. Are your favorite songs your favorite because they were really difficult to understand, or because they stay in your head and they're easy to remember and give you a good feeling? So, along with a couple other songs, I give the tape to Steve, and he liked it. He didn't actually say that much, but he took the tape. And a while later, he told me he liked 3 of the songs on there. This one, Seaweed, and its infamous counterpart, Gator, and of course the SpongeBob theme, which he then used as the closing theme for the show. But he didn't jump for joy or anything like that, but he had this look of, like, this is going to work in my show. And that gave me an immense sense of satisfaction and pride, and that I pleased my friend, Well, that's how Seaweed came to be. It wasn't written by watching SpongeBob. It was written by imagining this world that didn't exist yet. Some Hawaiian tapes, an analog 4-track recorder, and a picture in my head of seaweed swaying in the current with the characters peeking out behind it. So that's what it took. I did not expect it to wind up living in millions of people's memories, but that's how it worked out, and I'm very pleased about it. Thanks for checking out today's episode of Songs and Stories from an Animated Mind. Here's the song, Seaweed.